under my awning, watching people set up tents.
But I cannot get the snakes out of my mind now. Whenever I envision Boulder Field now, I'm envisioning snakes down there.
You've stumbled across Next Waypoint. I'm Clay.
And I'm Andrea. We sold our home and moved into a 30-foot fifth wheel so we could explore the U.S. up close.
Follow us from waypoint to waypoint to share in our findings.
So how did you like Hickory Run State Park near Whitehaven, Pennsylvania?
I kind of liked our campsite. It was in the woods, shaded. What I really liked was what's in the state park. So the Boulder Field was that was really neat.
Yes, so Boulder Field was a field of boulders, and you could walk on them, and some of them moved a little, but not like would, you might twist an ankle or something, but for the most part it was pretty solid, and you could walk. It was a big field, and you could just walk all over the rocks, and there were people who walked the entire field, younger people, steadier people than us.
I think we went there on Saturday on my birthday.
Yes.
And as we were driving down the one lane road, we weren't seeing any traffic, and I thought there would be no one there.
Right.
And when we got there, all the parking lots were almost full. All these people just magically got here.
How?
And then when we walked to the Boulder Field, I was expecting a Boulder Field. I wasn't expecting it to be like a mile long and a mile wide. I mean, that was...
Not quite a mile, but it was big. Bigger than a football field.
But yeah, so how it's created, the Boulder Field was created was kind of during the Ice Age, but it wasn't caused by the glacier deposits itself. In fact, when you read the description, it tells you that the glacier field actually stopped about a mile from there as it was coming south during the Ice Age. I forgot the word.
Gelafluction.
Gelafluction. So today's word of the day is gelafluction. Can you say gelafluction?
Gelafluction. Gelafluction.
I know he can't spell it, so we won't go there.
But yeah, it's the process of mostly on a flat area. So at one time it was just one big slate
boulder,
big
rock.
And then over years, because it was flat, the rain and then the freeze and the thaw and that process created the boulders.
Freezing and thawing caused cracks, which then created the boulders, and then I think rain is what smoothed them to make them look like, to make them individual rocks.
But I guess it happened over 20,000 years, so that was really cool. I like to see all the kids walking on it, and you can see some families were halfway out. They're like, no, we're not doing that. but we walked on some of it, so that was...
Yeah, we walked a little ways out. I was impressed that I didn't fall and injure myself.
The geological process, he says, eventually that'll be a forest. So as the seeds fall down into the cracks, eventually grass and trees will grow and take over, and then
trees will push up and it will become a forest.
And then no one will know that it was ever a Boulder Field in the future.
And speaking of the cracks between the boulders, we have decided, because of our post of still photos of this Boulder Field, our shout out today is to the follower Melva Her. This is Clay's Aunt Mel.
Aunt Mel.
She commented on the picture of, I don't remember exactly, but I'll show it to you, that there are probably a bunch of snakes down there.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
So I had such a fabulous time there. I thought that was so cool, and I want to go back and I want to try it again, and tell people about it. But I cannot get the snakes out of my mind now. Whenever I envision Boulder Field now, I'm envisioning snakes down there. So thank you, Mel.
After we were done with the Boulder Field that same day, we drove to another part of the Hickory Run State Park, and it was crowded. parking lots were crowded, and they had a ranger there guiding us in. So the falls was called Hawk Falls. It wasn't that far typically as far as the trail goes, but it was all downhill, and then obviously we had to come back. But Hawk Falls, it was pretty crowded on the trail. People stopping, taking selfies and all that kind of stuff with their groups. So yeah, we made it down to the falls, and yeah, it was worth the trip down, and probably the trip back.
Well, first was, I think, I've been to a lot of falls. I love the falls. I always love them. So that was great. But I have to say that the highlight for me for this one, because I am a rule follower, and it really aggravates me when people don't do what they're supposed to do and don't get in trouble for it. But this was a good karma moment. There were people who were actually swimming in the falls, and you are not supposed to do that.
There were signs everywhere.
Signs, yeah, there's no way anybody, unless you really couldn't, and there were a lot of people with different languages, but still, you've got to be able to tell that. And then a lot of people on the rocks right near the falls. So anytime you try and take a picture, there are people in the way. And it was aggravating. And they were like lingering there for a long time. And there were a lot of people that wanted to see the falls, and nobody could get close. So it was irritating that people weren't being polite, getting out of the way. And then the guy that was like right in the falls, I was just like, I hope somebody catches him. And wouldn't you know, all of a sudden we hear yelling, a park ranger yelling from up above, "Get out of the falls and get out of my park." He said, "You down on the rocks, get off of the rocks." And I was just like, yeah, they got in trouble.
So yeah,
I enjoyed that. We didn't even know about this Boulder Field or the falls. And I didn't know about it until that morning, because I happened to ride my bike over to the visitor center and was looking around and reading things. And I'm like, I wonder where this Boulder Field is. I wonder where this is. I wonder where that is. And so we came back and looked. And so we didn't even know it existed. And that morning we decided, okay, let's go check it out.
Yeah, I had visited the visitor center the day before. Very informative. They had a display back there with all the geology of the park and places for kids to crawl. And
hands-on learning for the kids, but also for the adults.
Yeah, it was neat. They had these little bubbles with pictures in them, and you look through, and sometimes there were videos playing, sometimes there were just pictures of different things in the parks. So yeah, the visitor center was nice.
I know it was a holiday weekend, and I know it's going to be crowded, but most places that we have camped, you're allowed 1 or 2 tents on a site. And sometimes you can do an RV in a tent. But I have never seen where you're allowed to have 3 and more tents on a site.
Describes as a family. You know, it doesn't really say how many tents.
Oh, family who live under one roof.
Yeah,
is what's allowed. But it just seemed like all the tents sites were at least 2 tents on a site. And right next to us, there were 3 tents that were easily 2 people each, but I'll bet you might have been able to fit more than that in there. And then the next site over was the same group. You could tell because all their tents matched. It was like they ordered them all off Amazon and then took a big family trip. The last night that they were there, they were loud until midnight. And again, I didn't check specifically these rules, but usually at a state park, quiet hours are like 10 to 7 or 11 to 8. So anybody making noise after 11 p.m. is being rude. And this went well beyond 11. Clay was going to go out if they kept it up after midnight, and must be they didn't, or else we just finally slept through it.
I mean, it rained the one night, which was as they were setting up, which was kind of funny. And I was under my awning, sitting outside.
Watching them get wet.
Watching them get wet. Under my awning, watching people set up tents. On July 4th, I decided to take a walk down some of the trails, and I ended up walking over to the beach. I heard music. I said, oh, they have a party over by this, where the beach is. So they have a dam where this lake is. As I walked up the levee up to see the dam, and I just saw how many people were there, and I said, "Oh yeah, it's July 4th." But yeah, that place was really crowded at the beach that day. So I walked around, took a few pictures, and then I walked back.
But we did end up going, we waited until Sunday afternoon thinking that there wouldn't be as many people because a lot of people do pull out of the campground. And they did. A lot of people were leaving the campgrounds Sunday. So we went over to the beach that day. It was still crowded. I mean, maybe not quite as much as the 4th of July,
No,
but every picnic table taken, and you know, the grassy area was filled up, and a lot of the sand area was.
but it was still manageable.
It was very manageable. We were able to get a little spot in the grass right next to the sand. I prefer.
The water was
grass.
nice. It was great.
Yeah, it was. It was
I thought it'd be colder.
refreshing, but not cold at all. But cool enough to be refreshing. They had a concession stand. Mostly it's ice creams and that type of thing, and they were really good. It's obviously the place to go in that area is the beach.
Everyone was well behaved. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of little kids, babies in the water. Always fun for me.
Another place we enjoyed was the town of Whitehaven. The little shopping area was really neat. It was right by the river.
Like a warehouse type building. Nothing special, but there was a grocery store on one end, and then the Rite Aid was next. I think they had a liquor store in there, and then a Subway pizza shop, and then the laundromat was pretty decent, and then the ice cream place, Wood's
Yep.
ice cream place right on the end.
Yep, we had ice cream there. That was good.
Yep.
And I went to that pizza place. Anthony, I don't remember which, but I noticed on the wall they had pictures of, and they had a NASCAR of the 16 car, and it was signed by Greg Biffle, and they had pictures of Greg Biffle on there and a flag of Greg Biffle. I used to follow Greg Biffle when I was really into NASCAR, and I had some pictures of Greg Biffle visiting that shop. I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, he'd obviously been there, and they were big fans. And
I did take some of the trails that are around the actual campground. But right there's a called Shades of Death trail. I walked that trail a little bit. I took some pictures of that, and there were some families walking on the rocks on there. They had a camp store.
I thought the camp store was great. It had everything you would need in a pretty small building, but not so crowded. You know, you wouldn't want too many people in there at a time, but it literally had, and I mentioned that to the guy, and I said, "You have everything in here but the tents." And he said, "No, we got those in the back too." So if you showed up there with nothing but the clothes on your back, you could camp.
And it definitely, Sunday night, it cleared out.
Definitely very sparse and eerie now, which is very nice, the way we like it.
So overall, we had a great time there. But I don't think we would go back to the campground.
No, not unless it was maybe an off time or something where you're not going to have the tenters.
And this is our neighbors. No tents.
I definitely want to explore the area again.
I wouldn't mind doing the Boulder Field again and some of that, but I think we'll just find another
Bring snake
campground.
repellent.
Yeah, snake repellent. Thanks, Mel.
We had a good time, and I think we're just going to sign off for now. I'm headed to my parents' place, and we're going to park the vehicle there overnight and spend a night there.
That should be some drama. Try and park the RV in their driveway area, and it's coming off of a pretty steep hill, so that'll be fun.
So yeah, we'll see you
Stay
again.
tuned.
We'll see you again on our next waypoint.
No, that's off. I had it started. You there. In your lane. Today on our way out, we stopped at IHOP, and we had our first senior citizens breakfast because they have the 55 and up breakfast menu, and I just happened to come across it. I'm like, hey, we're both over 55. We can do this. First time that we've ever done a senior citizens breakfast.
We always like when we're at a loop that doesn't have pets. You don't hear the dogs as much. Although we do like walking on the pet loops to see the dogs. That was nice that we were there.
It's like having grandkids. You want to see them, but you want to send them home. So we've heard.